Well, my views about forestry have always been fairly positive, and they have been amplified as far as my knowledge content. And I really do view forestry now as one of the most sustainable, economically helpful industries. Another thing that's changed is I grew up during a period of time where having a pulpwood company right next door to you was not necessarily the best news. Now that's a long time ago, that's 50 years ago. But I wouldn't mind having the pulpwood plant that we visited right next door to me. The water quality, the air quality was amazing, and just the people, they were both, it seemed like an absolutely fantastic teamwork, great place to work, concerned about safety, but they were also equally concerned about the environment. Every part of seeing the whole picture was really encouraging to see that many people concerned about giving good quality, safe jobs, and at the same time doing it in a sustainable way to where our environment that we give to our grandkids is going to be just as healthy, if not healthier, than what we currently have. That was very encouraging.
My views of forestry have changed a good bit from this trip. I used to think that they would just come in, grow the lumber, clear cut, put more trees in, and then wait, clear cut. But as I have learned, there's a lot more going on with the forestry industry. They have people that manage the land to make sure that the land is also a good home for the wildlife, the native wildlife, not just wildlife, but native wildlife and plants, so that we can keep things like the gopher tortoise around that are starting to lose their numbers. It's also interesting to see how they will come in, plant a lot of trees, more than they need, and then start to do clear cutting every few years and to make it where light can get in. The burning, which I knew that they burned, and I've understand burning before, but didn't realize that burning was actually part of the ecosystem of Georgia before we set foot here and started to make it the way we want it. So that, coupled with the use of the wood afterwards and how much they use the wood and how some of the plants are going through and making everything almost a closed loop where there's very little waste, and what waste they have they use to generate energy for their own plants. And then every bit of the tree is being used. Going to the lumber yard and watching them trim the trees to make lumber, and then their waste is then sold off to pulp mills so that the pulp mills can then make paper or the fiber, which we got to go view. So everything is used together. The companies work together. It's that I thought was very interesting too, to see that, you know, Jordan Lumber Mill works with International Paper so that all of their waste is being used. It's not as competitive as I would have thought when you're looking at the big companies like that, thinking, oh, I need to get the trees, I need to get this, but it's let's work together to make sure that everybody gets what they need.
Well, I teach forestry in a high school classroom, natural resources management, and getting my students out in the field, understanding what they're seeing in what we're talking about in the classroom is really important so that they can get that overall feel about what forestry is about. But then when I can attend a workshop like this, it allows me to connect with people in the field and talk with them further to get the information I need to be a better teacher for my students. I also love it because they might be some of the individuals I'll contact and say, hey, can I bring my students out and see and let them actually see what I've gotten to see.
Well, I grew up in a small town up north, so we didn't really have a lot of forestry in my community, so I was a part of that generation that was told, you know, cutting down a tree is bad and you're ruining, you know, our resources and our wildlife. So it was definitely eye-opening this week to see how that whole process is sustainable and that it is beneficial for our society and our community.